Shon, it's a pleasure having you on today. You are, I can say this with all honesty. You're one of my favorite people. Just a really authentic, just awesome person, and not only that, but just a talented business owner. We've known each other now for a number of years. Shon has had made a major impact on one of the organizations that we both have a heart for, which is called the Alliance. And Shon, he's been in NorCal, if this is accurate, 42 years. That's a long time to really know this
But
area.
I'm
He's
only
been in.
43 years old, so how does that work out?
I know, right? That means you came here at age one.
Yeah, age one.
As I saw on LinkedIn, I didn't know this about you, but like 28 years investing in real estate, but 18 years, selling. But you've also now have a really talented Delia real estate group, which I've had the pleasure to connect with, and just authentic, wonderful, service-oriented people. And then you have a number of other passions. So you have like kind of four passions we'll hopefully go into some on, like real estate, being an educator. I've seen that firsthand, business coach, and strategist. You had 10 years working for a Fortune 20 company as a sales trainer, right? So that kind of was a key part of what probably stoked some of those passions. And then your team has transitioned over to the EXP model, and seems like you're loving it, I guess. And we look forward to hearing more about your journey and about your life and your family and whatever you want to share that helps educate and inspire the next generation and the business owners out there as well. So welcome, Shon. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I have to share the biggest question I get is what got me into real estate. And I have to say, out of all people in my life, my grandmother. And people will scratch their head. They're like, wow, okay, so tell me a little bit more about how she got you involved. She was a single woman living in the Oakland Hills back in the late 80s. And she started to sell real estate in Oakland and retired in 92 and retired up in Incline Village in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, man, if she can do that, I can definitely do that. So she really turned my heart over to real estate. I bought my first income property in Arizona in 1996. And I was just a young buck trying to figure things out. And it was a rental property. So I had to learn how to, navigate being a landlord. But that really kind of got me, interested in real estate altogether. So I bought more properties. At one point, I had 6 properties. And it wasn't until I came back from living in Arizona, I ultimately moved out there. When I came back, I made the decision that I want to do real estate full time. And when I came back, I just basically said, you know what, after my corporate job, being a sales trainer, I want to do real estate. So I physically got into real estate full time in 2018. So even though I'm on my 19th year of being, licensed, I've only been selling real estate, full time for 7 years. One thing that I noticed early on, though, when I was selling real estate, I had a passion for running a team. And being a sales trainer, it kind of leads to, leading people, developing, certain attributes and salespeople. So I decided in 2018 that I wanted to start my own company. And I was with a different brokerage at the time, Keller Williams, which I love, KW. Great training, a lot of good stuff that I've learned from there. So I took my leadership skills from the corporate world, also adapted to some of the, leadership skills that I learned at KW. And when I created the company, I started seeing myself developing more the agents and selling real estate. So when I ask a qualifying question, with the new agent, how many deals do you think I've sold? They'll say 10, 20, 30. I'm like, I sold 2 deals last year. And the reason why is because I'm not a competing, team lead. I actually give the leads back, to the agent. So, but the point is, I found myself being more involved with the business development part, developing the agents. And Justin, most of the agents on our team too.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some really good talent coming onto our team. And yeah, they just kind of flourished, selling real estate. So I love seeing that more so than me selling real estate. So that's kind of my journey on how I got to, create Delia Real Estate Group. The last thing I kind of want to share as we open this up is, it is a faith-based, business for myself. I can't go out there and seek out people that are just, believers, but there's a way of kind of figuring out, like this person does have a heart for God, has a heart for people. And that was a huge attraction for me. And even a couple of people that joined our team that were not believers, I'm thinking, this is a great opportunity to witness to them. And we've had people, I'll throw some names out there. Do you remember Sherry? Olga. They would just break out during one of our team meetings and start praying. And there's been points when we talked about gratitude and, tears are flowing. And it just shows that this whole team is built around God. And I've just been so blessed ever since.
Having those values and having that shared faith, that shared connectivity to something bigger than ourselves that drives us, like then there's I saw this in your team, a lot less like selfishness, a lot less like, like backfighting, like people really cared about each other and about serving. And it was it's been really cool to see like the harmony, that's within your team. And I think that draws people in to join the team, because I mean real estate a lot of times is very solo, like for a lot of people. And having something where it's like those that care about wanting having a community, I think you've fostered that and created that for them, almost like the Delia family,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, the alliance was actually a good connector for us too, and that's kind of where Justin and I met. We were looking for, well, how do we all together stand behind some type of a cause? We all kind of came up with our ideas and this type of stuff, but there was really no, nonprofit that was like the conduit for other nonprofits. And I remember someone talking about Volunteers of America or some other ones, and it's like, well, I think to some degree the alliance works with all of them. So it was a great alignment for us to partner, being a partner in purpose. And actually, every transaction that we close, we would have a matching. So the agent would give a certain amount of money, then Delia Real Estate Group would match it. And I think that was kind of the glue early on for us to be able to say, hey, we have a cause that we're fighting for, and it's the alliance.
Yeah, and then you guys would do different events kind of throughout the year too. Like you had like the toy drive, you had different things as part of your other, events that brought the community together. And I think that also that you have those opportunities not only of the giving and seeing the impact, but also having tangible ways to bring everyone together. I know that was really, and also the Alliance events, right? Where you guys would be able to come to like one
The
of the
Derby,
partners.
or yep.
Yeah, the Derby, those, I mean, those ways that we don't think about of how impactful those are for building that trust and that connectivity within a team, but it really does. So,
Shon, I've got a couple questions for you. So how big is your team now? And when you're looking to add to and continue to build out your team, what are those specific traits that you're looking for in an individual?
No, that's a good question. And it's a question that I also share with Kevin and Jennifer. They're also kind of like pseudo leaders on the team. So one thing that we'd love to do is to attract people that have a high business acumen. So we don't have to teach them the blocking and tackling of like how to follow up, how to dress, how to ask for business, that type of stuff. Real estate, I can teach people, but it's the other things that we want them to already be, armed with. So the biggest thing for our company is to have a good fit to the culture, because we understand, and to answer your question, we have 12 licensed agents right now. We were up to 15. Anytime that we add someone to the team, it could either upset the apple cart or just be a good fit. And sometimes it will take us 60 to 90 days to feel that out, but we try to figure that out up front. So it has to be a good culture fit. It has to have, good business acumen. It has to have drive. Justin, you know this with real estate, 74% of the agents that start today are gone in a year, and they have a fighting chance if they're on a team. So they need to have drive. because what we see on TV doesn't really play out like the truth of what we do. It's like a little small portion of it. But yeah, so they have to have the drive as well. So those are kind of the highlights of what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Excellent. And so, it's very clear to me that there's this common shared values. Do you guys as an organization have a vision statement or a mission statement that keeps everybody rowing in unison, working together?
Yeah, so we have a tagline, agent for life. So, we've always kind of struggled with, do we take that, $50,000 piece of land, or do we just focus on, $3-4 million properties? And we do all of it. So when we say agent for life, that means agent for life. We're in this for the long term. And we have agents on our team that have been with me since day one. And that's been kind of our core. So yeah, we do have a mission statement. We do have a culture statement, but it was made out of a puzzle. I know that sounds kind of weird, but we did a whiteboard activity early on when we first created Delia Real Estate Group. What does culture mean to you? And we just put all these words up there. And then our admin at the time took it and made it into a puzzle. So we didn't take all the words and try to make something fancy, but it was just indicating all the things that mean something to us as a team. So I was pretty excited to see that when that was completed.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's super neat. How do you see the real estate industry, changing and developing over time? Obviously, you've been in Northern California for a long period of time. A lot has changed. A lot has been developed. What do you think this next chapter is potentially going to look like?
Yeah, that's the crystal ball, right? And that crystal ball gets a little shaded and cloudy on one side, and then it's sunny the next day. I mean, the market is so fluid. One of the opening questions I'll ask when someone asks me about the market is like, what part of the market? If you're watching CNBC, Bloomberg, any type of financial, outlet that is national, they're going to give you a national outlook. If you want to learn more about California or a specific county, a specific city, even down to someone's street, the marketability on those different pieces of the market are vastly different. If you got your neighbor that just got 100 grand over asking, that's going to influence the value of your property, and vice versa if someone had a short sale. But to answer your question specifically about where I see the market going, I do see that we're like right around the corner from a good market. Right now, it's been very neutral. There's been more inventory than last year, 30% more inventory, and there's 2% less buyers. And the rates have an effect on that. Buyer confidence has an effect on that. So, but I do foresee that once things start to settle down with the tariffs, which we can debate about if that's a good or bad thing. But I think that once the confidence gets built, people are going to be a little bit more bullish about going out there and making a move.
Yeah, excellent. And so for your clients and your agents, are they primarily working with home buyers and home sellers, or are they also working with investors as well? Is it a mix between the two?
That's a good question. I'm smiling because we do have a lot of programs around helping buyers, but 2/3 of our business are sellers. And it's a good leverage of time for us because if you get a listing, you're not taking someone around, shopping for a home,
right.
So you can leverage your time. And that's kind of our sweet spot. We've actually worked with a lot of new home consultants for these builders. Every time they have a contingent buyer walking through the door, if they have to sell a house to buy that house, they'll sometimes ask, well, do you have a good realtor that you can recommend? And we're very fortunate that we have a pretty good connection with a lot of those new home consultants. And it really ties to my wife. She's been in the business for 12 years. But yeah, so I'd say 2/3 of our business are with sellers.
Excellent. Artificial intelligence has been in the headlines and in the news, and people talk about it a lot. Are you seeing any effects in the real estate industry and how business is done or how homes are found? Would be super curious to get your thoughts on that.
Well, full disclosure, I was scared of it a year and a half ago. And it's interesting because Kevin, Jennifer, and I, have these, leadership meetings, and it's the inevitable. I mean, we have to adapt. What's the saying? Adapt or die.
Right.
And I feel like that we're there now. So a lot of artificial intelligence is being built into, how we create our listings, how we do even the descriptions of listings, how we use Chat GPT. There's builders now that are looking to, instead of having new home consultants at locations, that they're using artificial intelligence to find out what are people looking for, what area, and then calling into like a hub center and make an appointment to go see homes. So we're not far away from that. I heard it's being tested in Vegas. We'll see. But yeah, artificial intelligence is here to stay. We just need to learn how to play in it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the interesting things to me that I've seen is that there's organizations out there like Open Door, which are trying to sell directly to the consumer and have those transactions done directly with the consumer. Yet their business hasn't consumed the entirety of the market, right? I mean, when you think about real estate, it's very much a relational and very people-oriented, very personal transaction. So what do you do specifically to empower your team, and how do you train your team to enhance their communications and relationships with their clients?
Yeah, and I think Open Door is probably the best example that we can use right now. Their stock has been hit pretty hard, enough to where they almost got kicked off the exchange. And I think they're suffering, financially. They had a little pop maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. But the point is that for them to survive, they have to undercut the offer on the house that they're buying, put a little bit of money into it, and then flip it for a sizable return. Where they make their money is they can turn that same dollar over 3 or 4 times in a year. But it's not sustainable when the market is flat or starting to get a little bit lower. There's builders out there that partnered with Open Door because Open Door guarantees a 24-hour guaranteed offer, but it's coming in 50, 75, 100 grand under market. And the sellers are like, I don't want to play in that space. So we do get sometimes that second, well, let's have Shon and his team come in. And that's where the communication from our agents need to be able to articulate, okay, what is the Open Door proposition, but what is ours? And what are we going to do differently? And what are the other services that we provide? So it's very, very key for us to be able to articulate that.
Yeah. Love it.
I can talk about this all day. This is fun.
Totally. Justin, were you about to say something?
No, I was just thinking that I feel like in every industry where it's relationship based, like these things like AI and first it was online shopping, which did change the landscape for when I was at Nordstrom, but I feel like at the end of the day, like we always kind of discount just how much we're communal creatures and like just how much we desire connectivity and that personal touch, so it makes sense, at least in my mind, that like if you provide high level service and you find ways to leverage things like AI effectively, that you can overcome, because people will always want that touch. I don't think we're ever going to want just a robot to show us a home,
Yeah. I mean, there's a saying, in the absence of value, it comes down to price, right? And so certainly there's going to be different organizations and entities that try to sell on price and try to make that transaction as clean and quick as possible. But if you're able to show up, and personally I believe if you're able to show up and really connect with your client, understand their needs, and serve them well, and make sure that you're going that extra mile for them, like it's about the outcome, right? So really awesome to hear that you guys are able to kind of make that pivot and use AI to your advantage. Take me through like the evolution of your leadership and how your leadership has been, perspective has developed over time. Were there any like key insights or key aha moments that you had in your life, which has really shaped the way you lead your team now?
So going back to the corporate world, I was very, blessed when I was a sales trainer, went through a lot of different, programs to learn about not just how to train, but how to lead. Towards the end of my career, I was able to actually develop the sales managers on how to run their team. And one thing that I've learned early on is buy-in, having people buy into your system. And it doesn't happen with just one conversation. Most of the time, it's about like evolution, trying to get people to, see it a certain direction. But it also helps me being a leader that I need to take coaching and have someone kind of steer me in a different way. Jennifer is probably the best at doing that. Now that she's in her 8th year, being a licensed realtor, being a leader, she does have us think outside the box. So I think giving people the room to feel comfortable and to kind of share their ideas and to be heard, I think was the biggest thing for me to learn. Because, once people are quiet, that's when you should be scared. I think that's when people are about ready to, step away. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I've been very fortunate that Kevin and Jennifer being leaders, but they're also been with me since day one. So hopefully that speaks volumes. We also follow the SMART. Are you guys familiar with the SMART? Mm-hmm. The specific, measure, attainable type goals. So part of it is when we give feedback that we need to give it, right away and do it with empathy and not so much sympathy. So that way, there's kind of a buy-in there. And if someone can agree to the feedback that we're providing, they're going to take it that much easier. And I see that with Kevin and Jennifer doing it with the agents as well. So I make it sound like I'm perfect. There's so many things that I've learned and, skinned my knees and got bloody noses over. But I think just having good models, in leadership for myself and being able to articulate that with our team has helped me tremendously.
Now, you mentioned that your wife is also in a business. Now, that in of itself seems like a massive balancing act. You have wearing the hat of a small business owner, and your spouse is, engaging in the business. Like, how do you guys manage that all?
I don't think we do. Actually, we have a lot to talk about. That's for sure at night. So she sells new homes. I do the resale side, but we can also sell new homes as well. So it's not like she just gives us business, but I've met enough people in her industry that we're able to, kind of collaborate. But yeah, and she did resell before she got into new homes. Mm-hmm. But in resale, you have to self-promote. And as bubbly and as outgoing as she is, Justin, her, she just doesn't like to self-promote. So working for a builder, that builder and their marketing team drives traffic to her community. Where me, I have to, go out there and put myself out there and meet good people like you, and it just takes a lot of effort sometimes,
Yeah. Which builder does she work for?
She works for Elliott Homes now. So she started at Lennar, was there for 8 years, went to Beazer for, I think, about 2 years. And now she's been with Elliott for the last 2. And a little plug, Fair Oaks. That's the community she's in, Fair Oaks.
Fair Oaks?
Yeah.
I've been working with the Advantage Group, so I feel like I've learned a lot about new home sales over the last year.
I'm sure you have. Yeah. It's a different animal, huh?
It is. Yeah. No, it's its own specific beast, shall we say. It's definitely what you're saying. I've seen that just how you get to kind of, it's more around just serving and taking care of them and making sure that you get them understanding all the different options and just weave them into the development. But it's less of that. You got to go out and self-promote. That's a great way to describe kind of one of the key differences of resale compared to new home.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Perhaps we could change gears a little bit. Would love to hear a little bit more about, your sources of inspiration to do what you do. And once we cover that, hear about your vision for the future. Do you plan to continue to keep your team at about 12 agents? Are you looking to double that over time? Would love to hear both of those components.
So I just read a book called Science of Scaling, which was endorsed by Tony Robbins. It's a great book. I forgot what his name is. I'll have to look it up. But Great book. It's about a 5-hour read. So for anyone that's looking to take their business from here, to make it bigger, it's all about not raising the ceiling. It's about raising the foundation. So because we all get comfortable at the foundation level, right? Well, if you move your foundation up, it's going to force you to do things to 1x, 3x, 5x your business, whatever it is. And the intent behind it is to have very strict timelines around that. Because if you would ask me like how many agents I want or how many units that we want to sell, I can give you a number, but then is that like next year? Is that in 5 years, 10 years from now? So and I just had this conversation with Kevin and Jennifer that we have to scale our business. We don't have like a head count, but we have the right agent count on the bus. And we do have some people that are phenomenal people. And we just want to make sure that they're kind of, humming along the same volume, the same speed as the other agents that are really producing. So in a roundabout way, it's like making sure that we have the right people on the team. Mm-hmm. And that's more important to me now, because what I've noticed, I've had certain individuals come to the team, high producers, high energy. If they're not feeling it around them, guess what? They bounce. And that's my fault, because I need to elevate that foundation for all the other agents to perform at that level so they can feed off of each other. So it's more about having the right people on the bus than it is about like a head count, if that makes sense.
Yeah, certainly.
I got a question, because I mean, real estate, and I think it's you'd see this in a lot of the business lines, the different industries, where it's very free flowing. It's kind of like you can do anything or nothing, or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And like, have you found any systems? But if you're speaking to a newer leader and they're starting to own their own business, they're adding some people, any systems that have kind of helped you've taught for your team of how to stay organized, or how to kind of keep those SMART goals in place, just how to kind of build structure in a industry where it's very free flowing, and you know what I'm asking? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are systems out there that you can follow. There's, companies out there like called Place, that is kind of like a brokerage in a box that would help you with the financials and lead gen and training, that type of stuff. There's also good CRM systems out there that, provide a lot of support. One thing that I always come back to is, do you like talking to people? And if you like talking to people, that's all you need to do. Get rid of all the systems, everything else. If you just talk to people and you enjoy doing it and you do it over and over and over again, you will be successful. I learned that from a book called by Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have ever heard or read that book. It's a really good book about doing the mundane things over and over and over again. Therefore, you'll be successful. And it totally contrasts what we see on TV about real estate. What we see on real estate is like X amount of commission, we're going to celebrate, da 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 da. I even heard Ryan Serhant says, well, let's peel back the onion. This is exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it's not glamorous at all. So I think looking at systems and tools and all that stuff, it's really getting back to the basics. So my number one question I ask a new agent, do you like talking to people? You'd be surprised on how many people say, yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite thing to do. Well, you might want to look at something else, but yeah. So I would say just talk to people, do what Justin does. I've seen Justin in action, it's just about talking to people, and making those connections, and everything else will kind of fall into place, So.
Well, I appreciate saying that. I mean, compound effect, Darren Hardy, that stuff, it ties into a central theme that I think a lot of key leaders are now understanding, which is that micro habits or atomic habits, or just the idea of like process over results. Like if you have really strong daily systems, which I would say systems is like daily habits, like you're saying, like talking to this number of people, or just like I do this and this and this, but having those mundane things that you do regularly, it is that drip that creates the long-term success. So that's such a good point around talking to people as the foundational thing, because if you don't like talking to people, then you're kind of going to be very strategic around how many people you talk to, and that doesn't win in real estate, right? Because it's a numbers game. It's like how many people know you, like you, and you've talked to, where they're like, oh, when I think of real estate, I think of Shon, because he reached out last week and said how are the kids, and right. It's not a oh, if I just contact this person, that's going to be perfect. They're gonna do it, right?
Yep. So true. Sometimes agents will get, kind of hung up like, oh, that person gave me a little bit of attention and I think they want to buy, and I'm going to focus all my attention there. Well, sometimes we find ourselves like chasing people, and it's like, no, you don't need to chase people. You just need to keep putting the feelers out there and talking to people, and you'll attract people that are ready. Now, that person that, could be lukewarm, I mean, obviously there'll be an opportunity in the future when they're ready. It's just not putting all of our focus on that, because that keeps us from talking to other people, which is exactly what we should be doing, is talking to other people.
That makes sense. I like that.
So, Shon, how like engaged are you getting with your agents in terms of like helping them to create like structure and process, or do you largely step back and let them do what they're going to do, and then come to you for advice or guidance if they are looking to increase volume or whatever it may be?
So I need to do more of like stepping back. I think being a past sales trainer, it kind of keeps me like in front of the agents, and trying to develop them, trying to figure out what their goals are, help them get there. And we do have tools around like how many people you need to talk to get an appointment, how many appointment conversions do you need to get deals done. I think one thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning, is to really give Kevin and Jennifer the leeway to kind of do that, so I can focus more on the business development. One thing that we've noticed is that 1/3 of our closings, a little more than 1/3, are leads that we provide back to the agents. And if I can get in front of enough people and have conversations at different levels, that my goal is to bring leads in so I can pass them to the team. And when I'm doing more of the micromanage, that type of stuff, that really takes me away from talking to people. So that's kind of what I'm focused on, is to try to get myself a little bit more focused on the business development side and elevating Kevin and Jennifer.
Speaking of that, how's the employee program that you were working on before it? Are you guys still working on that as one of the? What are some of the ways that you are getting in front of different audiences?
So yeah, just as Justin mentioned, when I was in corporate America as a sales trainer, but before that I was a sales rep for a medical company, and we would sell medical supplies to hospitals. So I had that B2B, relationship with hospitals. When I got into real estate, I'm like, well, how do I keep that B2B, interaction? So we actually created a homeownership education course for companies and their employees. And it's free. We don't charge the employee. We don't charge the employer. It's just about giving, free home ownership education. And the reason why companies would bring us in is because, number one, they're probably struggling with employee retention, employee satisfaction. This is the biggest purchase of an employee's life. Why don't you give them some good education on that? And if they're not using a realtor, that's when they can use, someone from our team. To answer your question, though, Justin, so we've been to HR conferences, which I know we've actually seen you at one of those. So we try to get into some companies. We're in Beta Healthcare, Eschaton, Balance Staffing. So there's some companies that we are continually in front of with our education course. Mm-hmm. The conversion rate is not exactly where we would like it to be. So we're still focused on that, but we've added one more thing, which is the senior living. Mm-hmm. So senior living is like that new generation of people that are looking to move into assisted living, 55 plus community, maybe in a multi-generation home with their children, and they might have a house to sell. So we're actually working with the assisted living locations on being a resource for them. In fact, a little plug here, Aaron Weitzenberg, who is a marketing person, created this magazine of all these resources. And it's given to case managers in hospitals. And if you're wondering what a case manager does, they're the ones that once grandma or mom or someone elderly falls, break their hip, and they can't go back and live on their own. The adult children would ask the case manager, well, can you make some recommendations? Well, if they don't know a realtor or a mover or a financial planner, they can look in this. So she actually goes into the hospitals, Dignity being one of them, and has trained the whole case management staff on this catalog. So we're in this. So
very cool.
Yeah. So that's the other market that we've entered within the last year.
Given the time that we're in, like you said, with so many people that are hitting that time in their lives, that transition, it's a very important one to focus on.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've been blessed. It's a 12-hour course that we had to take. There's 3 of us on the team that are certified to work with seniors. It's a different, demographic, different need, but we all have a heart for the seniors, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I imagine that it's also very emotional for many of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as I shared, before we even got started today, that even with my mom, putting her into an assisted living, it was a transition, and there's some emotions there for sure, because she had 2 cats and she can't take care of them. So we're kind of hoping that would work, but yeah, unfortunately we had to move forward without the cats.
I'm curious, Shon, like we talked a little bit about this before, but like what fuels you? Like what's your why? Like what drives you to do all the things that you've done? If any of that helps of that, just kind of unlocking a little bit about what is your motivation? Like what is at the core of what drives you?
I think the development of agents has been kind of like eye-opening. I went into real estate because I had a passion for real estate. I think, as I mentioned before, shortly after that, it was the developing of the agents and now building a business and having them have an opportunity to feed their family. Therefore, I can feed my family. So I think that has been like the fuel for me. And, just having an opportunity to kind of give back to the community too, which is why we partnered with the Alliance. And then obviously my wife and I, we pray quite often. So being faith-based is huge for us. And we know that if we're putting, everything on the table for the Lord, that it's going to come back, and it has. We've been so blessed. So I mean, it's pretty powerful, but I would say, God developing, the agents have been like the 2 biggest things for me.
So important to have those larger whys, right? Like I guess I'm sure there's people that just caring about making a lot of money and having all the material things that can inspire them, but I don't know that that's sustainable. I don't know that that's something that you actually can have for your career and be like, this is great. Like this is all I wanted. Just look at me in my big home. Look at me with all my toys. Look at me with my 5 cars. Like at a certain point, that starts to lose motivation. At least that's what I found for my life.
Well, I've had agents, that I would ask the question, why do you want to get into real estate? And it's because of making money. That if you told that to a potential client, what do you think they're going to say or feel? I mean, yeah, you need to have a bigger why. than just making money. And those are material things too. Those can be taken away, just like that. And then you have nothing. Then your why is not a why, So totally makes sense.
100%. What else would you like to share that would potentially impart any wisdom for those who are listening? Is something, anything that you've feel like you've learned in your career, that as a leader, as a business owner, that you're like, you know what? If you're a 25-year-old, 30-year-old person and you're trying to own your own business, or you're trying to go into this real estate world, like, if I had known that, that would have been awesome. Like, if someone could have shared that with me, that would just been like, would have been swell, you know?
Oh gosh, where do I start? The first thing that came to mind when you asked the question was like, seek to understand and not to be understood. And I think a lot of leaders have a hard time with that, because when you lead, it doesn't mean that you have to like be a manager and manage and kind of dictate what people do. It's about leading with inspiration, but also understanding. So many times that when I'm having a conversation, I have to catch myself because I got what I want to say next. And it's like, I need to be understood, but it's backwards. I just need to understand where people are coming from. And I think doing that allows people to feel more trustworthy with you, and that they'll open up and share a lot more. So first thing is to seek to understand, than to be understood. The other thing is just taking direction as a new business leader from people that have already been down that path. There's things that I've done the hard way, but there's also things that I've learned from other, real estate leaders that I'm like, yeah, I should have done that earlier, but I can still adapt to it now. And keep feeding your mind with education. I think that's the biggest thing, reading a book, podcast. If it's inspiration from like a Tony Robbins or, Jim Rohn, whatever it is, because I feel that energy creates energy. And if I create good energy, it's going to help other people around me, have energy as well, and vice versa. So I don't know if that's kind of what you're looking for, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And it's interesting, a foundational element of any relationship is trust, right? That's the foundation. And I think what you said with, seeking to understand before being understood, two ears, one mouth. It's also that concept of like that goes into that, which is very appropriate. Is like, if we understand that people care, not how much we know, but how much we care first. They if you build, that's the trust. It get to a point where you're like, I know that you have my best interest at heart, and you listen to me, and you ask me their questions, and you're curious about me, not just telling me what you want to tell me. Then they'll be willing to weigh in on what they're seeing, and also buy in to what you're doing together. But if you start with this, and you don't start with this, and you don't start with humility of, being willing to take direction and seeking to learn from others who know more than you, yeah, it's, as a leader, you're going to have a hard time. You're like, I don't know why they're not wanting to listen to what I'm telling them. I got some good stuff to
talk to
share.
those people. Yeah. It took me decades to learn a lot of that, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
been humbling for sure. Yep.
No,
Yeah.
when I look at the real estate industry as a whole, one of the things that you mentioned earlier is that there's just a lot of people within real estate. There's like organizations selling directly to consumers. And so what would you say are your agent's edge or your organization's edge relative to, everybody else out there?
Well, it's interesting because I keep telling the team, we need to have our own mantra. We have to have like our stamp on what we do that's different. So we continuously look at the seller experience, buyer experience, and the agent experience, because that's really, really important. We do win 75% of the listings that we go out on. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I'm still part of every listing appointment, 90% of them. And we do lead with, this is our value add. So we do have some value adds that are just outside of like Okay, you pay me a commission, I sell your house. Okay, end of the day. But we do add some things, but we do a lot of discovery with our clients too to figure out what their needs are. So if it's, cleaning the house, or if it's having someone come by and help with staging, that type of stuff. So I would say that our value prop is really doing discovery and make sure that it's very specialized by each client. Therefore, they feel like they're heard, they're understood. We're hitting on the things that are important to them. We even ask about like past experience. And if there's any past experience that we're not so good under the light, then we make sure that we don't do that. And we always ask for what type of communication do you like, and what method? Is it text, is it call, email, combination of both, whatever it is. So I think just understanding the client is kind of what makes us different. The rest of it is just us going out there and talking to people, getting those connections, making the appointments, and then doing that discovery work.
Amazing. Love it.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience in terms of like how to reach you, or what your exciting new things you all are working on, or anything that we can, or any last words that you wanna impart? Any other wisdom that we haven't squeezed out of you yet?
Yeah, no, this has been great. I appreciate the opportunity. I would say if you're looking to build a business, I would be more than happy, just to kind of give you some nuggets of that work, that work for me. We do, help, promote other businesses. Justin, you can attest to that. But if you want to get into real estate, feel free to reach out to me. There's no hook to this. I mean, if you want to learn about the pros and cons, I will weigh heavy on the cons. So you guys know exactly what you're getting into. Because as I mentioned before, 74% of the agents do get out of the business within a year. So I can kind of help mitigate some of that. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for even a real estate team to, check out, if you're a real estate agent now, would love to talk to you. And also being a fellow believer, if you are a fellow believer, I would love to connect with you on that level as well. And it's all about networking, Justin, I've been very fortunate to know you for the last few years, and we've done a lot of networking together, which is great. So it's always about who you know, right? So.
It's interesting. There's what you just said about it's all who you know. I think there's a second part of that, which you've talked about, but it's about who you know and how you make them feel. Because
Yep.
I've seen people that know a ton of people, but they don't know how to like create that warm connectivity. And you could know a gazillion people, but if you don't have the ability to connect in an authentic way with people, you're just like throwing, it's like rain on concrete,
Right. Yeah, you don't want people to know who you are, but they don't want to be around you. That's not a good combination.
That's my point. Yeah. Any last thoughts, Tom? Any last questions for our friend?
Yeah, Shon, it's really grateful to have you on today. I mean, love digging into all the different components of the conversation, everything you had to share. So we really appreciate it. And I don't know if you have a YouTube channel or any marketing place where people could be able to reach you.
So we have a social media. I have an e-card that I can share, but we have a website, deliahomes.com. But yeah, the best place to reach me is probably Instagram. So if anyone wants to drop me a line there, that would be great.
Excellent. And in the description of the channel, we'll link to that. So people will be able to just scroll down and click on that.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, it's so good to have you on, Shon, like as echoing what Don was saying. And it's been a pleasure calling you a friend, and continually hopefully for many more years as we continue on this journey.
Absolutely.
And yeah, God bless you, man.
Yeah, God bless you guys too. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, take care.